Okay, so the notes here are breaking down the reptiles into their specific orders. And remember, I had said there are 4 remaining orders of reptiles. The first one are the Testudines, and these are going to be your turtles. There are about 300 species of turtles and tortoises. And yes, there is a specific difference between the two. Turtles are generally going to have some connection to water, and tortoises are strictly land animals. Tortoises are vegetarians. Turtles can tend to have a more omnivorous or carnivorous diet. Those are the big differences. But for all of them, they have a bony shell, and the top and the bottom, the plastron, which is the bottom, and the carapace is the top. You will be tested on those, by the way. Those are connected, so they don't have a lot of flexibility. And this is just, to me, it's such an odd body structure to have this bony, I mean, it's definitely protective, but it's so limiting. But their limbs articulate internally to the ribs. So they do have ribs, but they're attached to the carapace and the plastron inside of the shell. They have a keratinized beak instead of teeth. So they have, it almost looks like a bird beak when you get up close to them. They have fusion of vertebrae, the ribs, and skin bones that form the plates of the carapace, the top of the shell. And the bones of the pectoral girdle and skin bones form the plastron. That's the bottom of the shell. So instead of having all these different layers like we do, they're kind of all fused together to form their shell. So you can see here how they can fit all their body parts inside when they need to protect themselves. Turtle adaptations, here's an example of a box turtle. They are adapted to live on land. They do not have webbed feet, they just have short claws. They have a high domed shell, and their plastrons for them are hinged so they can kind of close that front part when they pull themselves in. They're omnivores, and they are a threatened species through loss of habitat. A lot of them are killed on the road. Here's a red-eared slider. I used to have one of these guys. They're a lot of work. I couldn't take care of them effectively. I had a big tank in my classroom, and as they grow, you have to get them bigger tanks, and I just did not have the room. So I found a student actually took on the turtle. His name was Einstein. But they have aquatic adaptations. They do have webbed feet. They have a red stripe behind their eye, and that's why they're called red-eared sliders. They live in or near water, so they like to hang out in water most of the time. So you'll find them in ponds, slow-moving water. They're highly adaptable to water conditions. They are omnivores, and they're a common pet. They do have a lot of work. Some people, because they get too big, they release them, and they are not native to this area. They are they don't belong in this area, so they are considered invasive species. And in Florida, and there's many states that are like this, it's illegal to have them because people are releasing them so frequently into the environment. And also with these little guys as pets, they are not allowed to sell them until they reach a certain size, because the babies can be tiny. They can be like the size of a quarter. And if you think about a little 1-year-old or a 2-year-old, they can fit quarters inside their mouth. Well, if they fit a little turtle in their mouth, they can get sick with salmonella because many reptiles carry that bacteria. And so then that child can get very, very sick or even choke on it. So they don't allow people to sell them until they're significantly bigger. Snapping turtles, we do have those in this area. I watch them walk in my side yard. We have a pond, swampy area, but they are almost completely aquatic. They only come on land to lay their eggs, and there are a lot of them. Usually they're pregnant females that are hit on the roadways because they're the ones that come out of the water to lay the eggs. They do have a long tail. They have very muscular limbs. They are omnivores. They can eat fish, and they're actually really good for the ecosystems in the ponds and lakes because they eat the unhealthy animals that are there, and keep the whole circle of life going. Here, nice up close view. They have very strong jaws, and they can remove your finger very easily. Definitely not one, and their ability to turn around and grab you is they're very flexible, and you have to hold them very carefully because they can get you. I do have a video of in part of the other video clip. There's like a turtle that's using his tongue as a lure, and this is at like a pet expo. But it's kind of neat how he kind of wiggles it around to attract fish so that he can eat them. Okay, moving on to tortoises. Tortoises are adapted to terrestrial dry conditions. They are herbivores. They lack webbing and they have flat nails. This is a picture of Lonesome George. He's the last Pinta Island giant tortoise of the Galapagos. There are other species of giant tortoises, but he is the last Pinta Island tortoise. And actually, I believe in 2012 he died. I think he was somewhere around like 150 years old. They get to be very, very old. But they were competed against by goats, and obviously goats are not native to the Galapagos Islands. They were brought in by humans, and they outcompeted these tortoises. These guys don't move very fast, and goats do, so unfortunately humans have had another hand in the extinction of a species. There is a video clip about Lonesome George in the other set of video clips that I have for you. Sea turtles. These guys, there's only 7 living species of sea turtles. They are highly modified for saltwater life. Their feet don't even have like toes. They're modified into flippers. The females, again, come on to land to lay eggs. They have salt glands to excrete excess salt. They are opportunistic predators. That means whatever swims by them, they're going to try and eat. And they are considered endangered or critically endangered because of where they lay their eggs. There's people living there now, pollution of the water, overhunting, and there's even areas where they collect sea turtle eggs to sell to people, and if there's no eggs to hatch into babies, then there won't be any more sea turtles. So they're trying to outlaw some of that as well. Okay, moving on to the crocodiles. There's 21 living species, and the difference is you've got crocodiles, alligators, caiman, and gavials. They're anatomically closer to birds and dinosaurs than the other reptiles, so they're very closely related to birds. And they have a 4-chambered heart, they have triangular eye orbits and other skull characteristics that are similar to birds. And these species have remained almost unchanged in 170 million years. And that means they are very well adapted to their environment, and their environments really haven't changed all that much. So starting with the gavials, they have teeth and jaws specially adapted to eat fish and crustaceans. They are not a threat to humans, and there are less than 200 breeding adults left in the wild. You can see a female on the left, and then the males, they have this weird bulbous growth. They use it to blow bubbles and attract mates, kind of a weird thing, but I have a video clip on that as well when you have a chance. Here's just showing you the skull structures and the differences. Caiman are pretty small too, by the way. But you can see how each of them is classified and looks a little bit differently. Difference between alligators and crocodiles is the shape of their snout. Crocodiles are much more narrow. Some internal body structures, very similar to humans. Crocodile heart is adapted for diving. That's probably why they've got this 4-chambered separated heart, so they can withstand that pressure. They do have an elongated snout. These are the crocodiles, so that they can eat or grab things sideways. Their nostrils are on the top of their skulls, so they can sit underwater almost entirely, except for just their little nostrils. They do have an epiglottis near the back, just like we do, so that they can breathe, or they can open their mouth without swallowing or breathing in water. They do have a secondary palate. They eat their prey whole, and they can sometimes end up eating rocks to help grind up the material for them. And they're oviparous, where they lay their eggs. There's no nutrition provided by the mother, but she does take care of them. Some successful adaptations of crocodiles. They are the largest of modern reptiles, crocodiles are. They have an efficient nervous system, efficient circulatory respiratory system, and that means that they can have prolonged periods of activity. Gustave is thought to be the largest living Nile crocodile in Burundi, Africa, maybe the last of these large species. So this is the end of this section of notes. You can take a break or move on to part 4.